Have you ever thought you were in a great relationship only to discover later that the person you were with was actually manipulating you and draining you emotionally? It can be really disorienting and make us feel weary of trusting again. If you've ever realized you might have been involved with a covert narcissist, you're not alone. Many people have experienced relationships where the other person seemed modest or introverted or self-effacing on the surface, but underneath there were hidden motives and all kinds of emotional turmoil. In today's video, I'm going to empower you with 10 engaging activities that you can do to spot these behaviors early on so that you can protect yourself from falling into similar traps in the future and hopefully build more healthy, fulfilling relationships. Now, first, before we get into it, for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. I'm Shaneen Megji. Welcome to my channel on Toxicity is Not Your Destiny. I create these videos to help you navigate toxic relationships in your life from a biblical, practical, and spiritual perspective. If you find this content helpful, please hit the like and subscribe button. By taking just a moment to engage with this video, you actually help spread this message of empowerment and healing to others who are navigating narcissistic relationships. It's a small way that you can join in on the effort to support others in tough situations. So before I get into the 10 engaging activities, what is a covert narcissist and why is it so crucial to be able to identify covert narcissistic patterns in people? A covert narcissist has exactly the same narcissistic traits as an overt narcissist. For example, entitlement, a strong need for admiration, a lack of empathy, arrogance, exploitation of people, manipulation, a lack of self-reflection, always blame shifting, wanting to control and dominate. All the narcissist traits are there. They're just hidden behind a mask of modesty or humility or piety. And a lot of these types flock to churches and ministries. So if you're looking for a spouse, don't just assume that every person there is marriage material. You're not just among sheep when you go to church, but you're also among wolves disguised as sheep. So it's important to recognize these covert traits because they can be quite subtle and tricky to spot. They can be hidden for a long time, which is why covert narcissists can cause way more damage to a person. So hopefully by understanding these behaviors, you'll have some valuable tools to help you navigate social interactions more effectively and also to protect yourself from emotional manipulation. So let's get into the 10 activities that you can engage in to spot covert narcissistic patterns. Now, one last thing I want to mention, any one of us can fall into these patterns at a given time because we're all human. So don't use this as a fault-finding exercise, but use it to help you spot patterns of behavior. That is the key here. You're looking for narcissistic patterns. So here goes. Activity number 1, observe this person's response to criticism. See how this person responds when you or someone gives them feedback, whether it's constructive feedback or critical feedback, or perhaps you could engage in a discussion with them. Covert narcissists are often hypersensitive to criticism, even if it's constructive or well-intentioned. Criticism can trigger feelings of inadequacy, shame, or insecurity because it challenges their carefully constructed self-image of being modest or humble or empathetic. So if you provide feedback on something, a covert narcissist might immediately dismiss your input with the attitude that you don't really understand or you're not qualified in their eyes to give them any advice or feedback, or they may shift blame onto others or become defensive or deflect responsibility. So watch to see if these kinds of responses are a pattern of behavior, because if they are, that's a big red flag. Activity number 2, assess their level of empathy. And you can do this by engaging the person in a conversation, whether it be about your experience or emotions, or perhaps the experiences and emotions of someone that is close to you. For example, you could discuss a challenging situation of a friend and describe what they're going through, and see if this other person expresses empathy or whether they direct the conversation back to themselves. One of the hallmark characteristics of a narcissist is their lack of empathy, which is their inability to put themselves in other people's shoes and feel what they might be feeling at a heart level. And this might be harder to detect with a covert narcissist because this type of individual may hide their lack of empathy behind a facade of politeness or sweet and affectionate language or seeming concern about you. But beneath the surface, they lack genuine emotional engagement or understanding. And they may have this ability to make you feel so special in their world, but there's not much substance or depth to it at all. So it can be quite duplicitous and destabilizing because you think this person cares about you, or you think you have a more closer, meaningful relationship than what really is. And even King David experienced the sting of a covert narcissist with these words. His talk is smooth as butter, yet war is in his heart. His words are more soothing than oil, yet they are drawn swords. None of these kinds of narcissistic attitudes and behaviors are new. Solomon even said there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that has been done before will be done again. And so even these types of covert narcissistic behaviors are talked about in the Bible. On a separate note, I did create an ebook for you on how to spot a narcissist at the beginning of a relationship. I would never want you to waste time with the wrong person. So if you're interested in having the right relationships in your life, the ones that God destined to be in your life, and to keep out the ones that are not meant to be there, the ones that would be draining and depleting and steal from you, check out my ebook because it'll give you some very helpful tips on what to watch out for as you navigate all kinds of relationships. Activity number 3, evaluate conversational patterns. Analyze the flow of conversations. See if this person tends to steer conversations back to themselves, even subtly, when the topic isn't about them. For example, in a group setting, pay attention and see if the person is consistently finding ways to redirect the conversation to focus on their experiences or achievements. Overt narcissists tend to dominate conversations quite blatantly. They steer the discussion back towards themselves and their accomplishments. They might actually interrupt others. But covert narcissists are a lot more subtle about it. They may subtly interject the conversation with personal anecdotes and reflections to make it seem like they're engaged, but their agenda is always to steer the conversation back to themselves. So pay attention to these things because they are very telling. Activity number 4, pay attention to any subtle self-promotion tactics because a covert narcissist may engage in this by downplaying their achievements, not because they're humble, but because they want it to seem like they're humble while also trying to promote their strengths or experiences at the same time. Instead of having this grandiose, blatant, overt way of showcasing themselves, they might mention this in a very casual way to seem humble, but it's really a way to drop information about themselves to promote themselves. Or they might come across to you as self-deprecating or insecure and needing a lot of encouragement and validation. And I'm not talking about people who need encouragement from time to time because that is normal. And sometimes we do need encouragement from people around us. But I'm talking about somebody who is needy of this, and it can be very, very emotionally draining. I'm really talking about a person who is chronically self-deprecating or insecure and is chronically looking to you to validate or lift them up. Covert narcissists subtly manipulate interactions like this to obtain admiration or attention or sympathy from the people around them. And they may use their perceived vulnerability as a tool to control how others perceive and respond to them. So if you notice yourself feeling emotionally drained or manipulated, it could be because of this kind of imbalance in the relationship where you are the one constantly giving and validating and emotionally supporting this person while receiving very little in return. Activity number 5, observe relationship dynamics. Examine how this person interacts with others over time. Covert narcissists are not interested in people. It's that simple. They really do not care about people's emotional struggles or pain. They're looking to engage with others to fulfill their own needs and desires for validation and affirmation. And these types of people may appear friendly and sociable and charming. They may also be intelligent and attractive. So this gives an impression that they may be worth investing in. But if you look a little more closely, they tend to keep emotional distance from people and avoid a genuine vulnerability where there's reciprocity in the relationship. A covert narcissist in this kind of relationship may engage primarily to fulfill their emotional needs and gain validation. But when you have an emotional need, they may be nowhere in sight. They may not be emotionally available to you. And that is a huge sign when you're dealing with somebody who's emotionally absent for you, but who has great emotional needs. These are people who are fickle and fair weather friends that you can't really count on when you have real needs. So be careful about that. Activity number 6, test boundaries. Set boundaries, even if it's a small boundary, and watch the reaction. One of the hallmarks of narcissists is that they can't stand boundaries, and covert narcissists may not let on that they struggle with respecting your boundaries, but it'll leak out. If you set a boundary and notice on a regular basis that this person subtly oversteps them, or tests your limits, or pushes them subtly or gradually, or maybe they act dismissively when you try to set a boundary, or they accuse you of causing harm or attacking them or trying to control them by setting your boundary, those are all red flags, especially, like I said, especially if you notice that this is a pattern. Activity number 7, evaluate attention-seeking behavior. Notice if the person constantly seeks attention or validation, especially in subtle ways like fishing for compliments or using self-deprecation to try to get praise. For example, if you're in a group setting and you happen to be the center of attention in that moment with people asking you questions about an accomplishment, or maybe you're telling a story about something that happened to you, well, see how engaged the person is beside you. Are they listening and engaged, or do they seem distracted? Are they scrolling on their phone? Are they looking down? Are they looking annoyed? Is their mind elsewhere because the attention is not on them? If you notice this to be a chronic pattern with the person you're with, where they're disengaged, or they unplug, or they get passive aggressive when you're the center of attention and they're not, that is a red flag. So watch for that. Activity number 8, assess this person's ability to handle disappointments. See what happens when plans or expectations change unexpectedly. How does this person respond? Covert narcissists have a hard time dealing with their disappointment, and then they don't want to look like the bad guy, so their responses can be quite passive-aggressive and maybe over the top. They may be stewing about how they could get back at you. They might give you the silent treatment. They might exclude you from things. They might ghost you. There could be all kinds of things that come out because they are feeling disappointed that they didn't get their way, and they're not direct about it, but they're seeking to punish in a very silent, insidious way where they can still maintain their image in the process. So watch for things like this. Many people might be disappointed when plans change, but they may come to understand or accept the changes. But a covert narcissist might go into enemy focus mode where they become passive aggressive, as I mentioned, with the person they believe is responsible for disappointing them. Activity number 9, analyze patterns of manipulation. Covert narcissists often use tactics like guilt tripping, playing the victim, or indirect manipulation to control situations or relationships. For instance, if you notice that they frequently rely on emotional manipulation to gain sympathy or maintain control, or where they might portray themselves as innocent or helpless while orchestrating situations to serve their own agenda, or where they're always presenting themselves as a victim and sharing stories of all the injustices and hardships in their life, all of these things are signs of emotional patterns. So you want to watch for that and see if this is something that this person chronically does. And number 10, observe this person in different settings and contexts. Pay attention to how they interact with different people and handle diverse situations. See how they treat a waitress or their family members or subordinates or colleagues. The way they treat people closest to them can be very telling. So pay attention to that. And also see how the people closest to them behave around them. Are those people stressed out or disheveled? Do they walk on eggshells? Are they watching themselves? Because this is very telling information. Can these people give feedback? Is there like a peer level kind of connection? Or is the relationship always hierarchical where the person is here and other people are here looking up to them? Because all this is very telling information. Also, pay attention to how they talk about people from their past and also their present, especially negatively. Are they always blame shifting when they're talking this way? Or do they take responsibility or ownership for the parts that they may have played when things went wrong in certain relationships or situations? If you're dealing with somebody who's always blame shifting, always blaming others, not taking responsibility, not able to self-reflect, and playing the victim or feeling like their life is completely unjust, these are all signs that you could be dealing with a covert narcissist. Finally, an important thing to do is pay attention to your gut and also be asking God to reveal anything that is hidden that you should know, because He's excellent at answering these kinds of prayers. And some of you have already experienced narcissistic abuse, and you may be leery of getting involved in a new relationship. So this list that I gave is not to scare you or make you skeptical, but hopefully give you some specific things to look out for so you can make a wise decision. But of course, the one who can give you the most wisdom is God Himself. And He says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to Him. So make a point of asking God for wisdom as you're navigating new relationships, and you will be amazed at how He will show you things and let you know by revealing things if this person is good for you or not. So I hope this video was helpful. If you would like a copy of my ebook on how to spot a narcissist at the beginning of a relationship, click on the link in the description box below. If you have other insights about identifying narcissistic behaviors that I did not share in my list, share them in the comments section below. Your input and stories can definitely build a supportive community and empower others to recognize and navigate complex personality traits. So we want to prevent as many people as possible from getting involved with dangerous, destructive people. If you'd like to receive regular content from me, don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.